Chapter 10 is on reaching diverse audiences, which, when we say diverse, we mean very diverse. There's a lot of different differentiations between audience types here. And in terms of an overview, we're going to look at the nature of public relations audiences, age group, gender and lifestyle, ethnicity, and then global audiences and matching audience with the media. So there's a lot of variation when we talk about our audience. The nature of public relations audience is labeled in a lot of different ways. Primary one here is that it is a very diverse audience. Even within a particular target market, a particular group of people that you are trying to achieve a particular belief or behavior from, even within them, you've got a large diversity. In addition, there is an expanding international audience. Maybe you're not sure why that is, but if you really think about it, ever since the internet became a major tool, the international capabilities and the communication between regional groups has become more and more entrenched. Social media just made that even greater. Again, use of technology, not only in the sense of your use of internet, but also the types of tools that we have, like iPads and other forms of tablets, phones, and such. There's also a visual orientation. So we see more than we did before, whereas only 15 years ago or so, we would communicate via audio, so over the phone and a lot on the radio. Now there's much more to it than that. Also, we see a lot of support for very singular or minute issues where people focus their attention more. As opposed to broad scale or general issues, we find people really zoning in. And my thought is the reason for that is the access to information now is more specific. You can find exactly what you're looking for. So people tend to focus in their obsessions or desires in a very specific manner. Also, there's an emphasis on personality and celebrity. So putting your name out there or establishing your personality via social media or getting your 15 minutes of fame. That's a big thing now, more so than it used to be in the past. And in addition, there is a distrust of authority more so than before. Now, you could say that's a generational thing, or maybe you can say it's due to the access of information, which has proven some reason for distrust, which we may not have had before. So there is that to contend with. So there's a lot of different components when it comes to the audience that you are trying to persuade or help to understand a topic. Now, in terms of categories or ways in which we can define an audience, a very diverse audience, one of those is age group. And as you know, there are various age groups within your audience that can lead to different personalities or different ways in which you're going to promote your company or your group. Now, the youth market is huge. As I'm sure you know, there are many, many, many people within this particular age group that have a lot of buying power. So the abilities of Generation X and Y to promote particular types of groups, particular clients or corporations or celebrities, and then subsequently support them in some way is just astronomical. Now, if you're looking at these two, Generation Y, or what most people call millennials, is anyone born between about 1981 to 2003. So these are the ones that have the huge buying power right now and are really immersed in social media and other forms of technical communication. So this is a very popular target market for a lot of folks. Now, Generation X is a little different in that they have their one foot in one generation and one foot in another. So I actually think this generation is pretty interesting because there's a lot of traditional ways of doing things mixed with the millennial ways of doing things. It's a pretty cool generation in that they come up with the most, or in my opinion, and some research says, the most interesting perspectives, and tend to be advocates a lot for various topics. Even when it comes to technology, they can be the ones training the millennials only in that they are able to use it in a better manner than many of the millennials. Not all, but many. So it's an interesting generation to research if you get the time to do that. Now, in addition, we have our baby boomers, which are becoming more and more of an impact on public relations. They tend to define themselves according to their profession because as they were growing up, job and lifestyle was the biggest thing. If you've noticed, that's not the case anymore. Although that's all obviously a big deal, your particular job and how much money you make has become less of a focus for the millennial generation. For the baby boomers, profession is very iconic for that group. They are also very well educated in typical, not always, but they're usually well educated and take price in what they accomplish. So whatever they're educating themselves in, they're very proud of that. They often question authority and take a strong opposition on social issues. Now, those oppositions may be in opposite to that of millennials or even Generation X, but that is something that they tend to be strong-minded about. And I'm not trying to stereotype baby boomers here. These are research-based commonalities that we have seen. That does not mean that all baby boomers are this way. It just means that in typical, when we've taken samples of populations that are within this age group, so 1965 and earlier was when these folks were born, this is what we see on average. They're also very competitive in their careers, have a great appreciation for leisure time, and many could say that is because they have lived a longer life and appreciate relaxation more, which is a big deal to a public relations campaign. You have to consider these things. And also, they may retire a little bit later than their parents due to improved health as well as financial uncertainty. So they live longer, but are dealing with more rocky situations in terms of money. So all of these things, while not universal to every single baby boomer, could be generalized in some form and have to be considered when you think about how you're going to promote a company if your goal is to promote it to baby boomers. Now, finally, we have our seniors who are usually around the age of 70 and up, or 75, depending upon which group you're talking about. Now, these are less easily convinced than young adults. So it takes a lot to convince a senior to take a position on something. You have to give them a lot of strong information, which is fantastic. They are active in voting. They read newspapers and magazines, traditional newspapers and magazines, represent an excellent source of volunteers. So if you work for a nonprofit, this is a great target market. They are extremely health conscious, and that goes without saying because they typically tend to be an older crowd and so need to be more health conscious. They see it as more of an urgency. And they have seen their savings erode in recent years since the economic crisis when the housing market crashed. So they are going to be more financially conscious and have a slightly higher level of anxiety because the recovery time is not there. So this is something to consider when thinking about how age groups can influence, depending upon your target market, how they can influence the ways in which public relations campaigns are strategized and what tactics are used. Another one that can be considered is gender or lifestyle. So we had age, and we can talk about how age can definitely impact it. But even within a target market, you're not only going to have a specific age group, but you are either going to lean one way or another towards a particular gender, or you're going to have a nice mix of the two. So it's something also to keep in mind. Now, women in general have been shown to have significant purchasing power. Not as much now as they did, say, even 10 years ago, but they do have a significant amount of purchasing power. Men are inking up there in terms of being the one making the purchases for the household. They also exercise great influence as opinion leaders. They're multi-minded. They're able to grab multiple things at once. They typically lend themselves to acclimating to new social media or new forms of technology almost faster than men. That doesn't mean, again, that this is universal to all females or all males, but it is a common theme we've seen in research. So keeping that in mind, that could impact how you promote your company or try to influence your target market. Now, the LGBT community is also defined in various ways. They are an emerging demographic and lifestyle group that is hopefully continuing to get rid of stereotypes and able to be seen as a major market. They tend to support companies and brands that reflect their views, and why not? It makes complete sense. When a company is content with this lifestyle choice, they should promote that if they do not worry about losing a group, because the LGBT community tends to continue on that path and have a lot of brand loyalty. And I get that. I feel similar to certain brands that promote female empowerment. So there's a lot of those to consider if your company or your client is trying to reach that particular target. Religious groups is another lifestyle to consider. They are growing in market, even though they're dwindling in numbers, not significantly, but various religious groups are definitely dwindling in numbers in terms of which one you're referring to, but they are becoming more vocal in some cases. So they can tend to have a power of some sort, either politically or also economically. And one of the major groups is the Catholic group, because there's such a large number, and then also the evangelical Christian religious groups, because there's such strong thought processes that are very distinct compared to some of the other lifestyle choices. And now next in line is a discussion of just diversity in general. So we looked at religion, we looked at age, gender. These things impact how you are going to promote a client, whether that's a company or a product or a celebrity of some sort or politician. Those things matter. So understanding who your target market is and then promoting appropriately is a big deal. Now, diversity in audiences is growing 5 times faster than the than the population. The ethnicity is very, very diverse. Oftentimes we think of race and ethnicity as the same thing. But honestly, it's not. There's a little bit of diversity here, and the ethnic groups are growing a lot. Now, public relation practitioners, must be sensitive to special issues, concerns, or interest of specific national and ethnic audiences. Now, so you may think that, well, somebody of a Hispanic race, or of a Latino race, would have an ethnicity that is the same regardless of where they are. But promotional ideas and promotional direction is going to be different if you are promoting to a Hispanic group in Florida as compared to, say, Texas. I know it seems strange that that would be the case, but there's a community of difference there. It's not drastic, but it is different. So you're going to communicate in various ways depending upon what region you're in and the community in which you are associating your group. So the U.S. Census Bureau did some surveying in 2011 that kind of showed any changes that are happening over a 10-year process of these ethnic groups. So if you look at whites or non-Hispanics, you've seen a dip in the amount of people that would identify as white, non-Hispanic. And then a rise, almost seems like it's a subsequent rise in pretty much everything else. The blacks stay the same, Asians, other identifiable traits, and Hispanics all rise. So there is a shift. It's slight, but there is a shift in the way in which we identify over the last 10 years or so, and I'm sure it's changed in addition in the same way in the last few years. So ethnically diverse audience also have a lot of diversity in the particular media that they use. So the number and research of minority media channels has actually increased because of the amount of minorities that have increased in the United States. So there's a lot more variety. And again, we are experiencing a difference in the way we communicate information since the internet became a huge deal. Now that we have that, there's more specificity, there's more single focus of topics. So it's something to consider when you think of how you're going to promote things. If you're going to do it in a mass media way, you maybe want to consider a more streamlined channel as opposed to doing it on a traditional like channels 2, 4, 5, and 11. where that reaches a larger market, but maybe more diverse than you're looking for. The Hispanics are, in general, the fastest growing ethnic group. As you kind of saw from the table that we mentioned earlier, they are increasingly regular users of social media, so it's a very popular tool in the Hispanic group to consider using social media. Now, that's a popular tool, period, to use social media because it's free and it's got such great resource value to it. But Hispanics, which are very quickly growing, and becoming more and more of a target market, are also using social media more and more. African Americans, there's a rise of affluent African Americans, which is very important to public relations. Promotion of products can be done in different manners using different channels than could have been done 10 years ago. And there are challenges to a global audience. As you can see, we're really diverse. There's a lot of differences between our audiences, whether that be race, ethnicity, gender, age, what have you. We have challenges. The challenge is based in cultural differences. It's based just purely in language. Not only are there some groups that speak wholly different languages in the United States alone, but we again are a global community. We range not just within the United States, but across ocean borders. And even within the United States, you have communication patterns and terminology that is different based on where you live. Have you ever heard the whole soda, pop, Coke argument? Depending upon where you live, you're going to entitle that in different ways. So a company that is going to promote a particular drink, let's say Coca-Cola, they might do an advertisement in all these various regions that use different terminologies. So they'll change the ad based on the particular region that they're promoting the ad in. So there are unique aspects of the local, political, economic, and industrial structures depending upon where you are promoting a product, a celebrity, or what have you. So there are definite challenges, and you need to consider matching the audience with the media. Now, print for detail and contemplation, when you think about how you're going to present information via print, and when we say print, oftentimes people think of newspapers, which are a dying tool, but it's not just newspapers. Think of billboards, things like that. So it's not just your traditional newspaper. Flyers are a big deal. If you want a lot of detail and you want people to think about something, then use print. Use print for things like that. Now, radio and video are more for your passive audience, where you have a very specific target market and you want flexibility in how you present that information. So you don't need a ton of detail. You need more flash and bang than anything else. Or in television's case, maybe you want emotional impact that can't be done via print in the same manner. I think a while back we had a series of commercials that were centered around heroin addiction. Well, that would be a little bit more appropriate for television than it would be for radio or definitely for print. It makes a greater impact when you can see and hear and use all your senses. Online media is great for customization. If you notice now, the advertisements for things like Amazon or Walmart are very customized based on your browsing practices. So if you want very specific customized promotion, you're going to use online media. And social media for reaching diverse audiences in new and financially savvy ways. You just have to be careful with it. Now, I know that was a lot of information. I'm exhausted just talking about it, but it kind of gives you an overview of how diverse our audience is and the kind of impact that diversity can have on the ways in which you promote your client. And again, keep in mind that we aren't trying to stereotype here. This information is based on research that has been done that can be generalized, but is not completely general. Meaning we cannot say that every single person that is of this ethnic descent or this gender or this age group feels this way. But it is common for that group to feel that way. Hopefully that gives you a good start on this topic. And if you have questions, please let me know.